The 1960s were defined by a push for social idealism and peace. But in August 1969, a 48-hour killing spree in Los Angeles shattered that imagery, replacing it with a sudden, localized terror. The violence struck the steep hillsides and isolated estates of Hollywood, areas where residents previously felt untouchable, shielded by geography and wealth. Among the victims was actress Sharon Tate, who was 8.5 months pregnant. The cruelty of her murder, along with 4 others at the residence, signaled a level of savagery the city had never seen. First responders described the crime scene as a site of unprecedented carnage. Victims had been stabbed dozens of times, leaving veteran officers traumatized and the public paralyzed by fear. When the killers were finally captured, the public was stunned to find they weren't career criminals. They were ordinary young women and men. Investigators identified a failed musician named Charles Manson as the mastermind behind the slaughter, despite the fact that he was never present at either murder scene. This discovery presented a terrifying problem for the legal system: how to prosecute a man for a massacre he orchestrated without ever lifting a weapon. Manson was an institutionalized ex-convict who understood how to exploit the vulnerabilities of the counterculture movement. He saw thousands of young people drifting away from traditional structures, searching for a new authority. He purposefully targeted damaged and impressionable youth. He looked for those who were desperate for a sense of belonging and offered them a surrogate family. To gain control, he isolated his followers at a remote ranch and mandated the heavy use of LSD. In this state of physical and chemical dependency, he began breaking down their individual identities. Manson cultivated a persona as a messiah. Through constant psychological conditioning, he reached a point where his word was accepted by the group as absolute gospel. Manson engineered a closed-loop psychological weapon system at the ranch, methodically overriding his followers' innate sense of morality. He directed this weapon through a prophecy he called Helter Skelter. He convinced the group that an apocalyptic race war was about to begin, and that they had a divine role to play in starting it. Manson claimed he was receiving specific instructions for this war through hidden messages embedded in the music of the Beatles. His plan followed a specific internal logic: commit high-profile murders, leave staged evidence, and ignite a racial conflict. To trigger this sequence, his followers crossed into barbarism, stabbing victims dozens of times, fulfilling the first step with violence that horrified the world. Manson's physical absence from the crime scenes was irrelevant. His followers operated as the physical extensions of his own hands. When the group went to trial, the proceedings became a public spectacle that demonstrated Manson's continued influence. The accused followers arrived in court holding hands, smiling, and singing. Even while facing the death penalty, they showed no remorse, demonstrating that they remained bound to his programming. Manson died in prison in 2017, but the legal and moral fallout of his control persists. Aging followers like Leslie Van Houten have spent decades seeking parole, arguing they were victims of a cult who were incapable of resisting Manson's indoctrination. Victims' families continue to fight these releases, maintaining that psychological manipulation does not erase the physical acts committed. They argue that the danger of such conditioning can never be fully mitigated. The Manson case serves as evidence that the most devastating weapon a mastermind can wield is the devotion of a fractured human mind.